Warning: contains adult content including harsh language, violence, and sexual themes, and may not be suitable for people under age 17.
And here's our centaur, Eliza sighed. Monty. Monty definitely was not what Tilly imagined when she heard the word centaur. His body was small like a miniature horse, slate gray with a black tail. The torso and head looked to be that of a human dwarf, or midget as people referred to them as. Monty was wearing a white tank top that was stained with grease spots, and his chest and arm hair were very thick. He was a bit on the chubby side, his face unshaven, and short hair as black as his tail. In human perspective, Monty looked like a middle-aged man that didn't take very good care of himself, and was apathetic about it. On top of his head was a black bowler hat, and sticking out of his mouth was an unlit cigar. "He's tiny!" Tilly couldn't help but exclaim. Monty sneered.
"Not where it counts, Toots,"
he grumbled, and Tilly said no more. "I hope you're not going to smoke that filthy thing inside," Eliza said to him very firmly.
"Nah, I'm going outside, ma'am,"
replied Monty.
"I ain't going near Destiny's stable again, though. I almost got impaled last time."
"Serves you right," said Eliza. "Quit smoking, and then you can hang out with another hoofed animal."
"I'd rather croak."
Without another word to either of them, he walked off, his tiny hoofs clip-clopping on the wooden floor. "We won't go down into the basement," Eliza told Tilly after rolling her eyes. "I think meeting a bunch of ghosts might overwhelm you today." "Wow, I wonder what it's like to feel overwhelmed." Eliza chuckled. "We've got 11 typical ghosts, I guess you could say. One poltergeist, and one, I don't know how to describe her. Anyway, the 11 ghosts are Hamilton, Emarist, Camille, Edith, Carson, Samuel, Maudry, Ramsey, Augustine, Ophelia, and Charlotte. The poltergeist is Gabe, but he isn't very good at pulling pranks, so don't worry about him. It's Kiko you need to watch out for." "Who is Kiko?" asked Tilly as she and Eliza went through the kitchen and out the back door. It was a horse stable big enough for one regular-sized horse. "You'll know soon enough, I'm sure. Anyway." Tilly gasped when she saw what was living in the stable. It was a unicorn, hide, mane, and tail as white as Allison's hair, eyes a friendly brown, and horns and hooves resembling nacre. They approached it, Tilly's eyes wide, as she had loved unicorns as a child, swearing on her life to her parents that they were real. Well, here it was. "Oh my!" she breathed. "Yes, this is Destiny," said Eliza, patting the unicorn's muzzle. "She's gorgeous!"
"Hey!"
the unicorn suddenly shouted, making Tilly jump backward. It had a male's voice.
"You think just 'cause I'm pretty, I'm a girl? Well, little girl, I'm a man. There ain't nothing wrong with a man being pretty. No girl unicorn could even compare to me."
"I'm so sorry," Tilly exclaimed, horrified. I just assumed—"
"Assumptions make an ass out of you and me, Missy, and trust me, I know asses. I spent one weekend with a goddamn donkey and nearly lost my head, he was so annoying."
"I'm sorry," she repeated. "You're very pretty, Destiny."
"Damn right,"
said Destiny strongly, stamping a hoof.
"I'm beautiful."
"Well, I can see you're in a bad mood," Eliza said calmly. "We'll leave you to your evening."
"Woman, you better get your fine ass back here,"
said the unicorn just as the girls were about to leave. Eliza groaned. "What?" she grumbled.
"Them carrots you gave me yesterday, you know what they had on them? You know what they had? They had pill bugs. I ain't paying for no pill bugs. I want my veggies clean."
"I'm sorry. I got them from an organic market," Eliza sighed.
"Well, don't,"
said Destiny.
"I ain't eating no bugs. Hate bugs."
"I won't make that mistake again." At last, Eliza turned to go back into the house, and Tilly followed. "Why is his name Destiny?" she asked. "He was raised by a French princess that didn't understand that pretty things could be boys," she replied indignantly. You know what? I think that's it." "Really?" Tilly said, a bit taken aback. "Yep, let me take you to your room." Tilly remembered which one was hers. It was between the demons and Ralph's room. She wondered if Ralph ever made any distracting sounds. Once back upstairs, Eliza opened Tilly's door and saw that it was just like one of the ordinary apartments, except a bit more empty because no one had lived there. She saw her luggage in the living room. "We put your stuff in here when the moving truck came so that Mimi wouldn't chew on it," Eliza explained. I appreciate it, Tilly replied softly. She was exhausted, mentally as well as physically. When you have the chance, go check the bulletin board in the lobby where the house rules are, continued Eliza. The residents also put up flyers or notes sometimes, but the rules are always there. They're pretty standard, so don't worry. Have a good night, okay? Good night, said Tilly, and Eliza left, shutting the door behind her. Tilly took a very deep breath and then exhaled slowly. It had been the most eventful, chaotic, and frightening day of her life, and she wondered if she'd be able to handle it here. It seemed like she had already made some friends, and if they were specific rules, then she'd be okay. Just then, the lights in the apartment all flickered out, and there was a very soft creaking sound. Tilly looked around quickly, suddenly feeling extremely cold. Wrapping her arms around herself, she slowly began to walk around, trying to find the source of the sound. The closer she got, the more the creak sounded vocal. Then the hallway closet gently opened just a little bit. "Hello?" Tilly whispered, not feeling stupid for calling out to seemingly nothing, considering all of the creatures she had just met. She grasped the doorknob, which was freezing to the touch, and carefully opened the door. There was nothing but a broom and a few wire hangers. Tilly sighed in relief, about to shut the door, when she heard that weird sound again, but this time for only a second. Paralyzed with fear, Tilly's eyes slowly rose to the ceiling of the closet, and she screamed bloody murder. Clinging to the ceiling was a girl of Japanese descent, and her jet-black hair was messy and long, hanging around her face and body. She wore a filthy hospital gown, no shoes, and appeared to have bluish decaying skin. Her eyes and mouth were open wide, blood dripping down her face. As Tilly fell backward and pressed herself against the wall, the girl slowly crawled from the ceiling, her limbs cracking and moving unnaturally, as if they had been broken and reset at odd angles. Tilly couldn't keep her tear-filled eyes off of this monster as it came ever closer, hair sticking to her blood-drenched face. And then she began to laugh. It was not a maniacal or frightening laugh, but as if something had seriously amused the girl. She sat on her knees, holding her stomach and pointing at Tilly, howling with mirth. Tilly blinked, still feeling terrified, but bewildered at the same time. "Your face!" the dead girl cried, clapping her rotted hand to her bloody forehead. "I haven't seen such a face in years!" "What?" Tilly whimpered. "Why are humans so easy?" the girl continued, shaking her head. "I'm going to have fun with you. Scare you later!" Still giggling, her body somehow slipped through the cracks in the floor. Tilly's mouth was gaping as she panted, unsure of what just happened. After regaining the ability to move, she wiped her tears away and got to her feet with difficulty. Her entire body was shaking violently, and she just wanted to get to bed and go to sleep, not even caring that she was still in her day clothes. Since that girl had left, the lights came back on, but Tilly killed the ones in the living room and kitchen and slowly made her way to the bedroom. The bed wasn't luxurious, being a wooden four-poster frame, but it was clean and good enough for her. Tilly clambered onto the bed, her eyes closed tight to try and chase away remaining fears, and lay on her back. She wasn't sure if she could take another scare. Exhaling again, Tilly opened her eyes, and once again let out a short scream, seeing Raz laying on the ceiling, practically in the same position as Tilly.
"Hey,"
he said casually, and then dropped right on top of her, landing so gently it was like he wasn't even there at all. Tilly stared into his crimson eyes as he grinned, flashing his fangs, and she wasn't sure if she felt excited or scared. "What are you doing?" she choked, and Raz got gracefully off of her.
"Oh, I always inspect the rooms of new residents,"
he explained, crossing his arms lazily and looking around.
"Especially the females. I'm not here to seduce you or anything, though I totally could. I'm actually looking for Jeremy."
"The shapeshifter?" Tilly asked nervously, sitting up and watching him.
"Yup,"
Raz confirmed.
"He likes to welcome newbies in his own special way. So does Kiko. I heard you just now met her."
"Is Kiko that dead girl with the long hair?"
"Yeah, she's the scary ghost. If you've ever watched Asian horror movies that always have the vengeful ghost with pale skin, wide eyes, and black hair covering their face, yeah, that's Kiko. But Kiko scares for fun, not out of anger or spite. She loves it. She's more of a poltergeist than Gabe is."
Raz knelt to peer under the bed, and then said,
"Aha!"
He stood back up with a grunt, and then held up a rather large purple dildo. Tilly went scarlet.
"I'm guessing this isn't yours?"
"No," she peeped. Raz chuckled, shaking his head in disapproval. He hit the object against one of the posters very hard.
Ow! Ow! Stop!
Said a man's voice. Raz ceased, then glared directly at it.
Did you seriously think she was going to use a random dildo she found on a dusty floor under a bed in an apartment that she just moved into?
He said sternly.
Some girls are desperate and lonely,
said Jeremy.
Yeah, no, bye-bye.
Raz dropped the dildo to the floor and began kicking it all the way out of the room. Tilly could hear Jeremy crying out in pain down the hall, and then a decrescendoed scream as her front door was opened and then closed again. Raz returned and groaned, giving Tilly an apologetic look.
Sorry about that. Do you have your safety pin?
No, muttered Tilly. Raz came closer, putting both hands to the back of his neck, and then produced a safety pin out of seemingly nowhere. He handed it to Tilly.
If you lose it, just come to me,
he said, turning and showing her his neck. There were many safety pins pierced right through his white skin, but no sign of blood or inflammation.
I've got plenty.
Do they hurt? Asked Tilly, alarmed.
No, I'm a vampire, stupid. I have no blood or pain receptors.
He chuckled slyly.
But I still have pleasure receptors, if you get my drift.
He suddenly blinked, and then rubbed his chin in thought.
Now that I think about it, if I have no blood, how can I get a hard-on?
Then he shrugged.
Whatever. Life's great mysteries.
Tilly was completely silent, still quite flustered. Raz walked over to her and leaned casually against the poster.
Anyway, I'll leave you to your sleeping.
Do you sleep? She asked him.
In the day,
Raz replied. So the sun hurts you?
No, I sparkle. What do you think, genius?
He smiled to let her know he was teasing.
So, you know where my room is. Just come on over if you need anything.
Raz winked.
Anything. And I'll see you around.
Tilly waved weakly as the vampire left her room, closing the door gently. She was just about to lay back down when she was startled by yet another male voice.
Yes, he is the charming one, isn't he?
It said in a dignified English accent. Tilly looked around wildly, afraid of what was communicating with her now.
Over here, miss.
She followed the voice and flinched, seeing a large spider on her windowsill. She would have thought maybe it hadn't been the spider talking, if it weren't for the fact that it was wearing a monocle, top hat, and was sipping from a tiny teacup while sitting in a mini armchair. Hello? Said Tilly weakly.
Oh dear, don't be frightened by me,
said the spider casually, waving a front leg.
I've lived in this room for a very long time, seen a lot of residents come and go. I live in that web up there.
He pointed to the corner above the window, and Tilly saw a medium-sized web.
I don't make a lot of fuss, so don't worry about me being a bother. My name is Sebastian. I would shake your hand, but my legs are quite weak compared to human hands, you see.
Of course, Tilly murmured.
I eat the bugs that will sometimes make it into this room, but otherwise I'll scuttle around the building to search for something exotic. I usually find pretty decadent insects in the Patterson's apartment, Sebastian continued. Don't mind getting embarrassed to change clothing in here, for as a spider, I am not interested in the human female anatomy. If you really do have a problem with it, I will turn away if you so wish.
How are you drinking tea? Tilly couldn't help but ask.
Oh, 'tis bug juice, my dear, the spider replied. If you don't mind, please do not open this window, as it will disturb my possessions and possibly my web.
No problem. Sebastian got off of his chair, pushed it into the corner of the sill, placed the cup on top, and then turned to Tilly again. He took off his hat and bowed to her.
Well, I really must turn in. I don't know about you, but I've had an eventful day.
Was all Tilly could say. Sebastian put his hat back on his head.
Good night, miss.
Then he scuttled up the wall to sit in his web. Good night, replied Tilly. With a shaking hand, she reached to her bedside lamp and switched it off, then got under the bed covers to get some sleep. Yes, she had had a pretty eventful first day.